Welcome back in, everybody, to a Tuesday week 2 edition of Birds 365 after the Eagles collapse at the end. They fall to 1-1 on the season. Joined now by Jeff Kerr from CBS Sports. Jeff, welcome to the show, man, after a brutal loss for the Philadelphia Eagles in week 2. How you doing on this Tuesday morning?
I've been better. I mean, I slept. I slept 4 hours.
Yeah, 4 hours, baby.
That makes 3 of us. We got about 11 hours between the 3 of us.
Yeah. Slept. Thought Saquon Barkley last night. He ain't doing too well. He's pinning the loss on himself. I did think Reed Blankenship had some damning quotes though. For all you Nick Sirianni haters out there, and I know you're out there. That the coaches
they're out there.
Oh, the coaches did not talk to the players last night. The players talked more so. Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, it seems like he lost his voice talking.
From stuff I've been hearing, yes.
Yeah, Jalen was struggling with his voice last night after the game, and I don't think he was sick. So, but let's start with the play call. It drives me insane, Jeff. What the flip wrong is with the play call? I mean, it's perfect. They ran the same play, and they almost got a touchdown to Saquon. They thought it was a touchdown, overturned it, was down at the half-yard line. Then they pushed it in. Same play call. It was going to work. They weren't going to get a touchdown. They were going to get a first down. Game over. Everybody's happy. And he dropped the football. In the Saquon's defense, by the way, that's exactly what he said. Drop the ball. Let my team down. Why is Saquon the only one that can see that? I'm sure they're
because people love to blame the coaches for everything that goes wrong instead of blaming the players. Catch the ball. Catch the ball. It's amazing how they defend players. Catch the ball, get the first down, win the game. Plain and simple. Oh, by the way, for all you people there that said they should have ran on 3rd and 3, what the hell was going to stop that defense from stopping Kirk Cousins anyway? Because they let go 6 plays in a minute 1, and they scored. I love all the geniuses. I really do. I really do, John. This
good. I'm glad you're fired up about it, because I was fired up about it last night.
Again, and I say this. Look, I don't coach at the professional level. I do coach at the high school level. And look, make the play. Just make the play. It's simple.
And that's one of your best players. You're arguably
that's your best player on the field, John.
Yeah, was having a great game. No reason not to trust him to make a play in a big situation, and he didn't make the play. I mean, that's it. Occam's razor. Simplest explanation is usually the right one. He dropped the ball.
I think I was more upset after the drop that they didn't go for it on 4th down, because I figured, well, they can get 3 yards. They can win the game.
Well, they could, and they're very aggressive, and typically they went for 4th and 4 early in the game.
That's what I don't get. Why would you reverse?
Nick said after
ELG brought that up on Twitter, John. I'm not sure if you saw that. There's no consistency. There's some 4th downs Nick goes. There's some he doesn't. There's not really a lot of consistency.
Well, yeah, but Nick explained that in the press conference. I mean, he is right to an extent. Look, I don't agree with all of his decisions, and I didn't agree on 4th and 4 early in the game. I kicked the field goal there. I think it's a little bit too far. When you get +3 and you're at 4 or 5, I'm going to take the field goal. That's my personal opinion. But you can't just say, oh, we're always, and Nick said this, we're always going to go for it on 4th and 3. We're always going to go for it on 4th and whatever. You can't do that, because then it becomes a tendency, and everybody knows it, and everybody's prepared for it. So there is a feel to it. You can't just say, oh, it's 4th and 3, 4th and 4 in the first quarter is the same as 4th and 3 in the fourth quarter. It's not, with the game on the line. So that's where the intuition comes into it. And but I wouldn't have had a problem if they went for it, because it's a 3-point game. and it turns into a 6-point game. So you do force them, you take the field goal off, and you force them to go the length of the field. Plus, you're down to basically a minute 5, minute 10, which they scored in anyway. But you're probably able to get off the field better than what happens. Because and the most egregious part of the drop pass, perhaps, is the fact that the clock stopped.
And I think that's why people are upset with the pass. But
if you
catch the ball, it doesn't matter.
All I hear on this show all off season is how great this player is, and now you can't trust him to make that play. Does that make sense?
I mean, all I can say is what he said last night. He's made that catch. But when I logged into this, there's a stat out there, and people don't like to hear bad stats, John, but there is one. Most drops by a running back since 2021. Saquon Barkley.
Yep. Yeah. And that's got to be factored into the decision there, John. I'm sorry, but it does.
Well, then it's got to be factored in. Guess what? Accountability for everybody. All right, I'll factor that in. And Jeff knows. I already said he's not a great receiver when he's got to reach.
He never was.
No. So believe me, I factor that in. So what are these other morons? Why aren't they factoring in the fact that, maybe he isn't the greatest receiver in the history of the world? And now you want to play revisionist history. So take some accountability. I'm not talking about you, Zander, but
no, I know what you're saying.
How about taking some accountability on that?
Well, my issue is he dropped the ball. Plain and simple. Yeah. You catch the ball. We're having a much different conversation this morning.
Oh, well, then we're not having a conversation because the game's over. And everybody's saying how great Saquon is.
You know what conversation we'd be having this morning, John? Because the Eagles' pass rush is pretty much non-existent. That's what we'd be having.
Yeah, well, which is true. And by the way, Jalen Carter didn't start that game, Jeff.
No, Milton Williams did.
Yeah. I get why everybody's on Bryce Huff. We were talking about that. But I'm more concerned about Jalen Carter. What the hell is going on with Jalen Carter?
5 pressures for 2 games. That's not what the Eagles thought they were getting.
It's not what I thought they were getting. No. I thought this was going to be a superstar level player.
Jalen was frustrated last night, by the way. We were talking to Jalen after the
game. What, Jalen Hurts or Jalen Carter?
Jalen Carter. Carter.
I'm sure he was. Why wouldn't he be? The production's not there. Josh Sweat says they're not on the same page again. He said the same thing last year. Get on the same page.
Yeah. So you mean to tell me that you got rid of Sean Desai, who ran the Vic Fangio scheme, and you bring in Vic Fangio, who runs
Matt Patricia was there last night.
Yeah, that was weird. What was he doing there?
Yeah. What was Matt Patricia doing there?
I saw him on the broadcast. I'm like, what the hell is Matt Patricia doing there?
Belichick was there for, I think, some reason as well, wasn't he?
Belichick was scouting his team for next year. He's like, "Oh, what do I got? What am I?"
Was he on the Manning cast?
Yeah, Belichick was on the Manning cast. I have to watch the Manning cast because apparently when
they're great. They take you through.
They were breaking it down like the entire comeback for the Falcons.
And it was Peyton, it was Eli, and it was Matt Ryan. So you had 3 high-level smart quarterbacks. Taking you through that 2-minute drill.
I gotta ask Matt Ryan as a CBS employee how he's allowed to go on ESPN production.
Is he? I can't keep up.
Oh yeah, he's on the NFL Today.
Yeah, I can't keep up. But
Jeff,
Matt's really smart.
Jeff, I want to ask about Jalen Hurts and just the decision he made at the end of the game. Forces that ball. Jesse Bates intercepts it. I thought it was a kind of a brutal decision by Jalen Hurts. You still have 20-plus seconds on the clock. You still have a timeout, and you're 15 yards away from being in Jake Elliott range. I think he could have gotten more than 15 yards. It's not like there were 6-7 seconds left. Get the ball down the field, take your timeout, clock the ball, and get in field goal range. He forces it into Jesse Bates' hands in double coverage. It was a tough decision for me.
I want to ask you this, John, because from when Jalen made the decision to throw it, I saw Devonta Smith open. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, he flashed open. Yeah, real quick.
Yeah, so maybe that's what Jalen was thinking. Yeah,
I mean, windows are tight in the NFL. You guys both know that.
They're very tight.
Yeah,
and, that one was closing.
I mean, maybe that was a hero ball play. I don't know. That was.
Well, it was a bad throw on.
Yeah, it wasn't a good throw.
It was a bad throw, but I think it was a worse decision. There's no need to force the ball there, even to where if we threw it almost 30 yards downfield, I just didn't think he needed to even do that.
He doesn't, but if you see that flash, you're trying to win the game. And if he makes that completion, to Jeff's point, the game's over. The Eagles probably win because Jake's probably going to hit that.
You got to minimize your downside. That was a play with the timeout on the board. Any play was open. A QB draw, a run. It doesn't matter what it was. A pass to the middle of the field. Anything was open at that point because you still had the timeout. He didn't need to make that decision at all. It was hero ball.
Well, I'm not going to go that far. I think it was a poor decision, and I think it was even more than poor decision. I thought it was poorly executed throw. I'm not going to go full hero ball because I did see what Jeff saw. There was a little bit of flash when he said, "Oh, I might have this," and if he really Brett Favre'd it in there, on a line, maybe, but. Yeah, it was a terrible throw.
Yeah, I mean, you needed 15 yards for a win. It's hero ball.
That's what it is. Not if the play. Not that's what I'm saying. It's the same thing with Saquon. It's just a bigger emphasis.
Yeah, I know. I'm judging the result. Again, it was a bad decision.
Well, yeah, I think it's a poor decision. But is it? I lean towards, if it's 50-50, I lean towards poor decision more. But if he does, fire it in there on the line, is it more 50-50 on poor execution? The throw was terrible.
It was a
bad throw.
Really bad throw.
The throw was terrible. That's what I'm trying to say. So if you're doing it, say, was it 50% poor decision, 50% poor throw, I would lean towards poor decision being 51, 52, but the throw could have screwed up the entire thing, and maybe it was a little bit more open if you're throwing a fastball in there on the line, but he didn't. So, but hero ball to me is what they did in Seattle. I don't think it was that. I don't think it was quite
maybe
that.
It wasn't that egregious, but I think you got Jake Elliott. He's one of the best kickers in the league. And
not anymore. It's just average.
Kickers in the NFL right now are drilling 55-yarders like they're nothing. You need 15 yards to win the football game and get out of there with the win.
I thought everybody was after the London touchdown. Everybody said, because London got the 15-yard penalty, and everybody said, "What a dumb play." I'm like, all right, he's got to kick a 48-yarder. Who cares? Bang.
Bang.
It seems that's easy.
It's funny, though, because you can at least block a 48-yard.
Well, you would think, yeah. But nobody is. The first 2 weeks have been crazy for kickers, Jeff. Crazy.
Oh, yeah. Well, did you see the stat where there's only like 4 missed field goals from 50-plus yards and Justin Tucker is 2 of them?
I know.
Yeah. But they're like 30. They're like 31 of 35. And the kid from Dallas, he might make an 80-yarder when it's all said and done.
Brandon Aubrey might need a Hall of Fame bust now because that guy is just going to break every kicking record there is.
Yeah. But the Eagles had more time, and I think, maybe the sense of urgency. Typically, you think, all right, there's only 20-something seconds left. You need urgency. But they didn't need that kind of – they had more opportunities. So I agree it was a poor decision. I'm just not going full-fledged hero ball quite yet. Now, getting back to Jeff, Nick got a little surly, and I got this from Dan Sileo on our postgame show. And I've talked about this since they made the decision. I don't like this setup. And we saw an example of why last night when I think it was Jeff McClain talking about clarifying the play calls. And Nick.
And Nick thought he was getting baited or something like that.
And Nick went, Kellen is the offensive coordinator that makes the calls. Yeah. If you're trying to stir that up, I'm the head coach. And people took it the wrong way. I had Cilio taking it the wrong way, saying he's throwing Kellen Moore under the bus. This is why I don't like this setup. Right. If you're taking away the play calling from the offensive coordinator you hired that everybody wanted him to hire because they didn't want him to play call in game 2, what you're going to get killed for that. And by the way, it was a good play call, and people don't even understand that from Kellen Moore, so that wasn't the problem. So John, what is he taking away?
The number one question I get from people in general, what does Nick Sirianni do? That's the number one question I get. They don't know. Oh, by the way, the Reed Blankenship quote escalated that. What does he do?
What did Reed say? I didn't.
Reed pretty much said like none of the coaches spoke. We're a player-led team in the locker room. When there was a message from the coaches, and they're because so what does Nick Sirianni do?
Well, maybe the whole player-led team thing isn't working well. Let the coaches lead the damn team. If the we're on a historic collapse coming off of last year when it was player-led. Now you're coming into this year and you just collapsed to the Atlanta Falcons. By the way, I got to say it. I think you guys let Jalen Hurts off the hook there. It was 1st and 10 with 25 seconds on the clock.
Well, I'm typically a Jalen hater, I'm told. So
I can't let him off the hook. Jalen answers your questions, John. So you must not be that big of a
hater. Yeah. I just said I don't think it was hero ball. I think he pushed it too far. I think he made a poor decision, but the execution was even poorer. But I don't think it was a Seattle situation where he's going off script and
just trying to force it into AJ.
I get it, but, John, similar to your sentiment on Saquon, where sometimes you have to put it on the player. This is a quarterback.
I said it was poor decision, poor execution.
Yeah, but again, Zander, this is the other problem. The only player everybody ever seems to blame is the quarterback.
Yeah, but Jeff,
let's not blame Dallas Goedert because he can't get open.
I get it, but Dallas Goedert had the first down catch.
Whoa.
Dallas
Goedert taking
$50 million, and we're looking for Dotson and Goddard and everybody else.
Dotson can't get open
How about Jalen Hurts elevates the team when AJ Brown's out? You make a dumb decision there. You need 15 yards to win the football game and get out of there with the win, and he forces it on 1st and 10. I
still see you guys have unrealistic expectations on this quarterback. You think he's a top 3 quarterback, and he's not.
Well, he's paid like one.
No, he's not. He's the 10th highest paid quarterback in football. I'm tired of that. He's the 10th highest paid quarterback in football.
I'm not letting him off the hook like you are. I'm sorry. I think that was a terrible decision.
I'm not letting him off the hook.
Coming off of a bunch of bad decisions last week, coming off of bad decisions last year, it's now 24 turnovers in 18 games.
You guys have so many unrealistic expectations on this football team, man.
Jeff carrying the heavy lifting for me. I love it.
This is not a Super Bowl team. They don't have a pass rush. They're old. They have a lot of bad draft picks playing. This team is not a Super Bowl
It's a very top-heavy team. Very top-heavy.
Yeah, everybody goes, it's a fantasy football manager's dream, and that's the problem with football fans today. They look at everything betting and fantasy football.
Oh, I love Jeff Kerr.
I'm not a bettor, and I'm not a fantasy player, Jeff.
I'm not saying you. I'm just saying everybody else. We have AJ Brown. We have Hunter Smith. We have Dallas Goedert. We have Saquon Barkley. Well, yeah, you also have Bryce Huff. You have Nolan Smith. You have Jordan Davis. You have Devin White, who can't even get active. Come on.
Sometimes you need your quarterback to elevate the team, man. That's football. That's why they're
my favorite.
He's not Patrick Mahomes.
Okay, I'm just saying. At some point, you have to rely on your quarterback to make up for the difference. AJ Brown goes down. Everyone's like, "Oh, what's Jahan Dotson going to do? Jalen Hurts needs to elevate the team."
How many times did I warn people on this stinking show about Jahan Dotson? To Jeff's point, and Jeff's doing God's work this morning because I'm tired. This is the greatest Jeff Kerr spot ever.
Kerr 4 hours sleep is beautiful. When you're listening to sports talk radio on the way home to get you fired up, it's even better.
My God, people overrate these players. Saquon in the passing game. How many times have I talked about that, Zander? The player that they think exists doesn't exist anywhere. Maybe a little bit with Christian, maybe a little, but even that, it's not like he's playing
He's got
receiver.
his flaws too.
Yeah. That player doesn't exist. Devin White. How many times I warned people he wasn't a good player in Tampa.
I've had Tampa Bay people tell me he wasn't a good player in Tampa. Well, we all know what we're talking about. So,
Jahan Dotson. He never cracked 550 yards in Washington, and people think he's going to replace AJ Brown. AJ Brown.
But just remember how he fleeced the Commanders. Well, I got news for you. Adam Peters is pretty good at his job too.
Adam Peters wasn't getting a 3rd-round pick from anybody else for Jahan Dotson. How he overpaid for Jahan Dotson.
That's what happens when your 3rd wide receiver competition is between Paris Campbell, who can't see the field, Britton Covey, who only seems to get screens in the end zone. By the way, Britton played awesome last night. I'm not gonna
he did play awesome, and 2 of his plays, not big plays, but they were 9-10 yard plays, were called back on those illegal downfield calls. But Jalen at least trusts Britton Covey. He didn't trust anybody else besides Devontae.
He went to Britton a lot. You're right, John. He clearly trusts Britton Covey a lot more than he trusts Dotson or really even Goddard. I mean, Goddard wasn't really anywhere until the end of the game.
I have held on to this for a long time. Zach Ertz was twice the tight end Dallas Goedert was. And Dallas Goedert's
receiving.
Yeah, if I said this in the summer, I got ripped. I said, I think Dallas Goedert's a little overrated. I got destroyed in the chat.
Dallas Goedert's a great blocker. I agree with you. I agree with John. I agree with John on that. But we put Dallas Goedert on this pedestal of the Zach Ertz pentathlon. It's just not that. It's not.
No, certainly not as a receiver. I mean, Zach was a great receiver. I mean, what did he have? 116 catches the 1 year? It was absurd.
Yeah, he has the record for receptions by time. Oh, by the way, Zach Ertz also caught the winning touchdown in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he got the 4th and 1 too.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, we were talking to Nick Foles yesterday.
By the way, John, while I'm on my little tangent here, how could the Eagles lose on Nick Foles night? The Eagles lost their final game at Veterans Stadium in the NFC Championship to a team who never won a game in 40-degree weather. Yes, they can lose on Nick Foles night.
Yeah, Nick Foles night. It was Jason Kelsey night. It was Nick Foles night. It was Jalen Brunson night. It was everybody. Shane Gillis night. It was Bradley Cooper night.
I love Jason Kelsey, but man, are the Kelseys milking this thing. They really are.
Yeah, the Kelseys are overexposed. Come on, tone it down. I do love the Buffalo Wild Wings.
They're on the broadcast. They're everywhere. The Kelseys, man.
I like that Buffalo Wild Wing guy.
I do too. Yeah, like Jason.
Free plug for Buffalo Wild Wings. If you want to advertise on the show, but I do like that giant buffalo on those commercials.
By the way, for those of you local guys, PJ Willihan's is a much better chain than Buffalo Wild.
All right, we're giving free plugs all over the place. PJ Willihan's, right near my home in Haddonfield, my former home. So, there's a good one there. But free plugs. I don't want to. I was going to say something about Haddonfield relations to somebody else, but I best not do that.
Jeff, let's go to the defensive line. You brought it up. You weren't happy with them. What's your level of concern right now on Bryce Huff through 2 weeks of the season here?
I want to give him the benefit of the doubt like John does it through 2 weeks, but from what I saw in training camp, I'm on your side on this, Zander. I'm concerned. Like, we were talking to him last night. He looked like a lost puppy. Like, he had no answers.
Yeah, he's shocked. I think he's shocked by the attention.
Yeah. And this ain't New York.
This is how it works. This is how it works in Philadelphia. Yeah. If you're not playing.
Yeah, it's amazing, by the way, when it comes to football, like typically New York is the major media market for everything, but not in football. Man, there is more of a microscope on the Eagles than even the New York teams. And the Eagles have the largest media contingent in the NFL, and they have had it for many years. I think it might be overwhelming Bryce Huff.
This is where I think it got it last night. Like, it's me, DeCecco, EJ Smith, Ed Krause are just talking to him. And all of a sudden, you see like 5 cameras coming. He's like,
oh, the camera people, man.
They pissed off Jalen Carter last night.
Oh, good. I hope
Like,
Jalen.
it was just me and Martin talking to him, and he's answering our questions. And all of a sudden, the camera people came, and some choice words coming out of Jalen's mouth.
Good for Jalen. Good for Jalen.
And everybody's like, well, Jalen Carter's frustrated. I'm like, yeah, he's frustrated, but not for what you're frustrated, not for what you think he's frustrated about.
Yeah, I don't want to compare them to. They're the worst people in the world.
Yeah, I felt bad for him because I was in the middle of asking him a question when that happened, and then he's just said to me, "What was your question again?" And I'm like,
"Yeah." It was like a morgue when we got in the locker room. So at least they're taking the loss hard, I guess.
Oh, they were. I think Slay took it hard. I know Barkley did.
Yeah, so Slay's getting a lot of crap. He was on social media talking about the final play, apologizing to Philadelphia. Bad thing to do because people are just shitting on him. But, that's a tougher play. I was watching that as well. And he was clearly, it was Drake London. I don't know if you heard before you came on, but I was talking about it. So Drake London, if you're a cornerback in the NFL, and you're in the red zone, you got the 6'4", 215-pound contested catch guy. He was playing inside, assuming the post was coming, and it was an option route, and Drake broke it all. The other team's playing too, Jeff. Why is that so hard for people to understand?
Jake London was the number 8 pick in the draft, right? 7 or 8. Like, he doesn't suck.
No,
yeah, Jeff, I did not think though he was going to be the guy to beat us last night. He had a couple big catches for that team, and he had slight.
Well, I'd mentioned on Birds.
John's right. You got to factor the slant. It's a tougher decision, and I think than it is to make in the moment than it looks on tape. But he had Darius Slay flat-footed on that play and just easily got open, inside the 5-yard line and got the touchdown.
I had made the point on the pregame show, or maybe it was Birds. They were unable to get the football to Drake London in week 1. And I thought the overcorrection was coming. I mentioned it a couple times. Saw it with Marvin Harrison Jr. in Arizona.
Yeah.
You saw it a couple years ago with Devontae Smith in that Detroit game. He didn't get a catch, and all of a sudden the Eagles are throwing them the football 2 times in a row to start the next game. That's what people do, and they managed to get it to him 6 times. Drake London, 7 targets. I saw that part of it coming. But yeah, I mean,
it didn't feel forced though. It was interesting. It's because I think it was, I can't remember if it was Morris or Zach Robinson that said, look, he's going to get open. We're not really concerned.
If all I'm saying is, thank God I'm not, but if I'm a corner in that situation, I'm playing the post as well. It makes sense. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And Slay's a high IQ player, so he's playing the odds. And sometimes they get you.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Him. John, before that play happened, I actually thought we were going to talk to Avonte Maddox last night because I thought he made one heck of a play in the end zone.
Man, he came back. He hurt I guess it was his back. I thought it was his hamstring because he came off like he was chasing, I think it was Mooney. And just a little bit of an overthrow. And he
went to the 10, right? He went to the 10, right?
I don't think he ever went in the 10. I was surprised because I'd that's hamstring. That's multiple weeks. He was kind of like hopping like it was his hamstring as he was chasing him. And I think it might have been his back. And a couple minutes later, he's got his helmet. He's testing it out, and he got back out there. So,
but by the way, they wanted to test Cooper. I saw Kirkland Cooper's way. Cooper was in position to make a play, so they couldn't go. They couldn't go that way.
Yeah. He wasn't out there a lot though, because Avonte got I forget the snap counts. I got to pull it up, but so Avonte came back pretty quickly. And in that time, Cooper was only out there for 1 snap, so it was 1 play. That's how long. And Avonte was right back out there. And in that amount of time, I got the people crapping on Avonte Maddox, with the glass comments. Those are the people that drive me crazy.
Those are the same people who have a paper cut and have to leave work. I'm being honest.
So he hurt his back, evidently, and he was back in not necessarily if they didn't have a nickel out there, but Cooper only played one play. Kaylee Ringo played two, so might have been involved with that as well. Because Ed asked me at one point, "Is that Ringo in the slot?" And I was writing something, and I didn't see it. So I'll have to look at that on the film. No Isaiah Rodgers, so that was a big thing. What did you make of no Isaiah Rodgers?
They can't afford to get him on the field. It's not a good matchup. Falcons have some big targets.
Yeah, I said that
doesn't work for him.
Yeah, just not a physical enough player to deal with wide receivers of that size.
Yeah, I think it's still injury related. I think it was more of a safety blanket, but I do think Quignon's staying outside now. I think he's done enough. Even though it was disappointing.
So
he got caught by Mooney at one point on that final drive, I think.
Yeah, and he blamed himself, but overall, you've targeted 4 times, allowed 2 catches for I think it was like 30 yards. And
yeah, whole collapse. What do you think of Vic's scheme in general? Where are you? I mean,
I hate it. I always hated it. I don't understand the love for this guy. This guy who hasn't won jack.
Oh, I understand the love for him.
Jeff, it's the bend but eventually break defense. It's not the bend but don't break.
In fairness, Jim Johnson did that too, but Jim Johnson doesn't have a Super Bowl.
Different era, though. Different. John points it out. I mean, the NFL is now caught up to it. Everybody does the Vic Fangio defense. It's not this, different line of thinking anymore. It's all over the league. And
you're right, Zander. Now it's let's run the ball because that's how we know we can beat it, and let's bank on defenses not being able to tackle.
How does, by the way, with CJ Gardner Johnson and CJ, if you're listening, you might want to turn up the music because I'm going to rip you a little bit.
He might, if he knows how to do it, he might be recording the screen as we speak.
Yeah. Well, how was a guy, because he made what would have been the biggest play of the game.
That was a great play.
If Saquon makes the catch. The biggest play of the game is him stuffing Bijan Robinson like he's Ronnie Lott.
That was a hell play.
It really was.
I mean,
Bijan
had all the momentum too. I mean, he stopped him, and I'm like, "Holy shit!"
This is the same guy who also can't make a tackle on Darnell Mooney.
Yeah. How is that possible? How is the same guy? How does he look like Ronnie Lott on one play, and he looks like a matador with Darnell Mooney, who's not the most physical player in the world?
Oh, by the way, that was one of the plays the Eagles blitzed.
Yeah,
so that's why they don't blitz for all you.
By the way, nobody knows what a blitz is.
No one knows what a blitz is here.
Vic, I see all these numbers because I know you're a big stat guy, Jeff. A blitz is when you send more than 4 rushers. So if you're sending, for instance, Zach Bond, but you're dropping out whomever, Bryce Huff, Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, whomever, as that's not a blitz. That's a Dom Capers zone blitz as a term. Like Jody used to love semantics. Like I would tell him big nickel. That's what they call big nickel. Well, they say, why do you call it big nickel when it should be dime or whatever? Because that's what they label it. That's what they call it. A zone blitz is a zone blitz because they call it a zone blitz. But when you're using statistics, a blitz is, are you rushing more than 4? And the Eagles were at 17 or 18%. In week 1,
it's around there,
and everybody's like, "Oh, they blitz more." No, he actually blitzed less than he typically does. But if they see the wrong guy rushing, they think it's a blitz. They're not good at the blitz. Why would? And by the way, Vic Fangio, his history is pretty lengthy. And when he does blitz, sometimes it's a run blitz, which is another thing people have a difficult time understanding. But I love Vic as a defensive coach. I just think that's part of it. If you're good, people copy you, and then the league catches up, and you got to evolve. I think, and he has evolved a little bit, but I think he needs to evolve a little bit more because too many veteran quarterbacks have seen this defense too much and are starting to figure it out.
You know what, John? And Vic Fangio's had about 5 or 6 different defenses over his long NFL career, but he could change it up completely next week. I don't think it matters with that personnel.
Well, good point. If you can't rush the passer, you're in trouble.
The Eagles do 2 things that just are cringeworthy on defense. They can't tackle. They can't rush the passer.
It's not a good twosome. Although, CJ looked like Ronnie Lott on one play. So
yeah,
that would have been a highlight of the game if the running back. So if you want to look up, we'll end it there with Jeff Kerr. Thank you, Jeff, for getting up early with us. I do appreciate that because I know I know firsthand how long these nights are.
I'll second that, Jeff. The appreciation.
Yeah.
John and I don't make it any easier by actually doing this before we actually go on and do this.
Yeah. At Jeff Kerr CBS, make sure you follow Jeff on X. The idea of decision making, you can go on Google or whatever you want to do. Artificial intelligence now, ask Siri, whatever your favorite thing is about decision making. And, there's a bunch of books to help people with everyday life. And the first thing they all say is a good decision does not guarantee a good outcome. First thing.
Yep.
And what that means is, hey, shit happens. But the more good decisions you make, the more good things that'll happen over the long term. The Eagles made a good decision on the Kellen Moore play call, and they got a bad outcome. It's as simple as that.
They made a good decision to sign Saquon Barkley too. It's going to pay off.
In short term, bad outcome. Good point.
It just sucks. That's the result, and it sucks that we're talking about a loss when, let's be honest, they should have won. And John, you've seen them. Zander, you've seen them. I've seen some poor collapses over the Eagles. And I said to John, this reminds me of 97, week 3 against the Cowboys. They had that game won. Now, that was on the road, but they had that game won multiple times, and they just kept finding ways to lose it. And it comes down to Tom Hutton can't hold a snap on a 20-yard field goal, and they lost.
Yeah. That's a poor job by the coach when the holder drops the snap.
Yeah, it's coach's fault. It's also coach's fault. Ty Detmer beats a blitz, and it's Freddie Salomon on the play before that. Yeah, it's it's always the coach's fault.
But to the point about it's always the coaches, that harkens right to my point of why this was a shitty setup from Jeffrey Lurie from step one. Because this was always going to happen. Just happened a little bit earlier than I expected.
Our buddy Bill Colarulo he said, I remember him tweeting this. It was like a random thought. I just have a bad feeling about this whole setup, this Nick Sirianni setup. And, I'm like, you know what, Bill? I'm with you.
Yeah, and I wonder if Nick is going to start putting his own career before everybody else. Because look, this coaches get fired in this league, and he might not fall on a sword for a team that's kind of stripped him of all the duties in the last couple of years.
Yeah. I mean, people, Doug Peterson had tremendous loyalty to this team right up until he didn't.
Yeah.
And
Doug Peterson still is risking his career for a certain coach.
Yeah,
and it's going to ruin him.
I love Doug Peterson.
Poor Press.
I can't figure that out.
But by the way, so here's an honest question, guys.
Eagles, by the way, are 32nd in the NFL in giving up yards per play.
Oh, lovely. Great.
Good.
Lovely.
Here's an honest question.
2 weeks, though.
Say Nick Sirianni doesn't last the year, right? Does he get another job?
I think he will.
I think
3 straight playoff appearances, NFC title, 35 and 18, somewhere in that range.
Highest winning percentage in
I think he gets
91-year-old franchise history. Yeah, there's a lot of. Have you seen some of the coaches in this league?
I have. One just benched the quarterback he didn't want.
I agree with Dave there.
I
Dave
just he didn't draft him, and the GM did not draft him. That is not their fault.
And Dave Canales only has one shot to be a head coach. And look, not that Andy Dalton's great, but at least you can run an offense with Andy Dalton. I've been talking about quarterback play, Jeff. All these young quarterbacks are so absurdly unprepared to play because of what they're doing in college.
Caleb Williams looks unprepared, and Caleb Williams is a talent.
Yeah,
but he's unprepared.
But they don't know how to play the position, and there's not enough time to teach them, but they have to play them. Well, in Dave's case, Dave Canales' case, he fails, and he's going to fail because he's got a terrible team.
And he's
never going to get another opportunity.
No. You know what? He'll go back to being an offensive coordinator and recommending Geno Smith and Baker Mayfield and those guys.
Meanwhile, those are the guys who can play.
Yeah,
Geno Smiths who've learned and go through it, and the Baker Mayfields and the Sam Darnolds, because I believe Sam Darnold's going to have a good year. I don't know how good, but
John,
he's off to a good
you
start.
called that months ago. I'll give you your flowers
because he's got a good supporting cast, and I think he
I always
how
said,
to play the position now.
There's one thing I always liked about Baker. He has a really good head on his shoulders, and I can't remember if it was. I think it was Fox that interviewed him, and he said, "You know what? People have a plan." He said it didn't work. He goes, "Do I want to be in 14 to 3 years?" No, but he said, "I'm better off for it, and I'm a better quarterback for it." And Liam Cohen, that year he was in LA. He gets with Dave Canales. Now he's back with Liam Cohen again. Everything's coming up roses for that guy right now.
Jeff, we got to run. Thanks for joining the show, man, this morning. Great stuff, great debate, good conversation, good energy.
I have to bring it for you, Zander.
Jeff Kerr, we appreciate you bringing it on Birds 365, brother. We'll talk to you again next
thank
week.
you, Jeff, because you took some of the pressure off me. I appreciate it.
I have to speak for you too at some time. Sometimes.
Jeff, thank you, man. We'll talk to you again next week, all right, brother?
See you guys. Thanks.
All right, there's Jeff Kerr. Great stuff from Jeff Kerr on this morning after 4 hours. We got some energy on this Birds 365, Johnny Mac, for not much sleep coming off a tough Eagles loss.
Yeah, I was surprised. Jeff bringing the heat.
Yeah, man. Jeff bringing the heat. I love it. I like going at it with him. I'm going to stick to my guns on what I think, though, about the quarterback.
Well, good. I think people are too soft on Jalen normally, because I constantly get killed for being a Jalen Hurts hater because I said something in 2021 that people act like I said yesterday.
I know.
He's posted on. So, people are morons. I'm sorry, but players evolve, opinions evolve. And by the way, one of the things with that, Kyler Murray, he had a perfect passer rating, by the way. He might be the most underrated quarterback in the NFL.
Jonathan Gannon's got that team looking pretty damn good over in Arizona, so we'll monitor that. Jeff, John, before I get to a break, I do want to hit on. I don't want to miss out any of these super chats. Appreciate everybody, by the way, in the chat this morning. Thanks everybody. Hit that like button if you're enjoying the show. Tough loss last night, but hopefully this team can bounce back and get back in the win column.